Every time I would go try and vote, every time.
And if that wasn't a privilege, it was my right. Every time I tried, I was shot, killed, or jailed, beaten, or economically deprived.
So I've been hearing a lot of Bernie voters saying that if Joe Biden wins the nomination, they're just not going to go out and vote. And they're talking about, like, oh, that's going to send some big, powerful message to the establishment and to Washington and to the DNC. But truth be told, and when you consider voter suppression anyway, alleged voter suppression for people that they know are going to vote for the most liberal candidate, I don't think they really care whether or not we vote. And not just the DNC. The DNC is under the entire Capitol Hill establishment umbrella. So obviously it's not just about the DNC, it's about the entire electoral system. Truth be told, I think most people on the DNC are Republicans anyway. Most people in our government are Republicans. Just because they have a D behind their name does not mean that they stand for liberal values. I mean, consider the fact that even though the Congress switched over to being that of the more democratically dominant ilk, they still voted for pretty much and gave Trump pretty much everything he wanted. So just because they all have a D behind their name and just because they're members of the DNC don't mean they are Democrats, don't mean they are liberals. They all work together. I mean, honestly, this so-called democratically elected Congress voted for Trump's bloated war budget. They voted to keep status quo down concerning his border policies, and they also voted for his damn wall, which, by the way, is falling down. So do you really think that establishment folk are not Republican? They totally are. Come on now. But honestly, in the grand scheme of things, oh, that's appropriate. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think they care who you vote for, as long as it's going to be somebody. And God knows Trump has his blunders. God knows Trump has his speech impediments himself. I mean, forget about Joe Biden. Donald Trump can act just as demented as Joe Biden, but they can also snap him into line, because I've seen his behavior change to be like, oh, more presidential, especially during this whole coronavirus thing. Then they slapped him back into shape to act all presidential, even though he was guffawing and mocking it before. But that said, I don't think the establishment cares who you vote for, as long as it's somebody who's going to keep their tax breaks in check, who's going to fight for oil in foreign countries, whether it's maintaining military establishments there or going to fake wars there. That's really all they want. So don't stay home on election day. Go picket, do whatever you have to do, but don't stay home. Another reason not to stay home on election day is for the local elections. I mean, in LA, we needed the liberal vote more than anybody, because the horrible incumbent that we had, who didn't do shit, and he's supposed to be in charge of our city, and he considered himself a champion for the homeless, he didn't do shit. So we need that liberal voice that's going to vote for the person who compassionately handles homeless and those types of things. And we need the person who's going to vote the liberal vote on the initiatives. So if you stay home, then you're forfeiting your responsibility about that too. Together. And yes, both Donald Trump and Joe Biden are conservatives compared to Bernie Sanders. And yes, it would suck if either one of them won. At the same time, giving Donald Trump a second term would be even more dangerous, because look how crazy he's gone since he was not technically impeached. I mean, he was impeached, but since he was not deposed. He has rolled back more environmental provisions, more just social programs. He's just gone crazy, and he's going to get crazier if given a second term. Now, am I saying that if you don't like Joe Biden, you should go and vote for him? No. But I would say don't stay home. I mean, you could stay home for any reason. You could stay home because you couldn't get to the polls. You could stay home because you had coronavirus. You could stay home because you just had diarrhea. That doesn't send a message to anybody. You're not sending a message as to why you didn't vote. You're just saying you didn't vote, and it could be for any number of reasons. That does not send a concrete message. Moreover, and like I said before, people are always going to vote, and they're always going to vote for an establishment candidate as long as they're put out there and have won the nomination. So, I mean, and if people stop voting for the establishment nominee, then either the world has come to an end, everybody has coronavirus, or we're on the verge of a dictatorship. You know, as a matter of fact, if I were an evil dictator, I would probably love it if people stopped voting. I'd be like, yeah, they think they're showing me something. Well, let me show them something. I'll just put whoever I want in power in place. That way we avoid the lines, we avoid the mess. If nobody wants to do this, then let's not do this. Let's just not have Christmas this year if it's going to be so much trouble. But am I telling you to vote for Joe Biden just to keep Trump out of office for a second term? No, not necessarily. I mean, it is a scary thought, but obviously if you don't want to vote for Joe Biden or Trump and that's really your conscience or conviction, you shouldn't. You shouldn't vote for either of them. But it's not going to send a message. The only thing that's going to send a message is your activism on whatever election day in which you partake. And that activism obviously involves action on election day. What do I mean? Well, I think you can see from this picture, write in Bernie. And this was a thought that I had back in 2016. Now, I understand not all states allow write-ins, which sucks. And, you know, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with those, but while some states still do allow write-ins, I would say if you are hell-bent on staying home and not voting because you're not interested in either of the candidates, instead of sending a passive message, which is indeterminate at best, I would say go to the polls and write Bernie in. Or stand outside and picket. Stand outside with signs and say, Bernie was robbed. Just do something, but don't stay at home. That's my whole point. Don't vote or suppress on yourself. Don't let your voice not be heard. It's not going to do anything. Brokers for Bernie! Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. And I always think that action is the best thing. All right, peace out.